Hi, everybody. I'm Irene Pasternack with teaching Feldenkrais with the Northwest Parkinson's Foundation. Welcome to class today. We have a new person, Danielle. Welcome. We're glad to have you here. And the class, as always, I try to run the class based on what people have asked for. And we talked last week both about shoulders and getting in and out of a chair easily, or on and off the toilet easily, the sitting up and sitting down. So I came up with a lesson that works with both of those. A bit, Cindy. And we always start with a measurement move so that you can feel the difference of if something and how something gets easier over the course of the class. So come to the front of your chair. And come on up to standing. And sit down again. And just feel, if I said we were going to do this for an hour straight, which part of you would go, oh, that's a lot? Where do you work? Try it one more time with the sensation of how easy, hard. And as you go back down, do you plop? Do you fall into your chair? Or if somebody took the chair out from under you, would you be able to recover by continuing to stand up? All right. And close your eyes for a moment, just in sitting. And put an imaginary string between your right ear and your right shoulder. And measure that string in your imagination if you were to put a ruler next to it. So everybody in this class still knows what a ruler is. And just notice how long that string is. And then compare it to a string on your left ear to your left shoulder. And is one string shorter than the other? And if you put a ruler or a stick along the string, where does the bottom of each stick point? Does it point a little in front of you or a little behind you? Or are they different left and right? So from your ear to your shoulder. Al is prepared with the right prop for the class. Okay. And just get a sense, do your shoulders, if your skin was a stretchy fabric, is it stretched tighter in the front of yourself or in the back of yourself? Different people hold themselves different ways, different moments. Okay. So that'll give us some measurement so that when we get to the end of the class, we see how we're doing. So take your left hand and put it out in front of yourself. And then with your right hand, begin to wash your forearm and your hand, just to explore all the different surfaces of your forearm and your hand. And notice, do you move your left hand when you do that, or do you hold it very still? You could leave your right hand still and wash your left hand by moving your left forearm. Give that a try. Or you could try and wash every surface of that arm by moving both arms. And you probably have a habit for how you did it. Everybody started out doing it one way and then it's like, oh, 3 different ways. Okay. Rest your hands on your legs. And close your eyes, see if there are any sensation differences between your hands, between your forearms, your shoulders. And then take your left hand and do the same thing. Wash your right hand. And see if you just naturally use both hands and arms and shoulders to do that. Or if you leave your right arm still and wash. Or if you leave your left hand still and move your right arm. And rest for a moment. Then take your right elbow, and with your right elbow, wash your left forearm. Just going to where is comfortable, your right elbow touching your right forearm. You can move both arms to help make it easier. Okay. And rest. And then use your left elbow to wash your right forearm. And you could imagine you were putting sunscreen on the arm. Are you getting every spot? And then rest. Now put your arms straight out in front of you. And with your right hand, slide up so it's above your left hand. So look at what my hands are doing in the picture. So my left thumb is touching my right pinky. My hands are one above the other. And then cross at the wrists. And then turn your hands around so your pinkies are up and you can grab your fists. Does that make sense? So you start by taking one hand over the other, cross at the wrists, and turn your palms to face each other. All right, everybody's got at least a good approximation of this, it looks like. And you don't have to hold the hands up so high. I'm holding mine up high so you could see them, but they can be a little lower, like a little lower than your shoulder. And begin to go forward and backward. And feel how you do that by your sit bones. Something in your sit bones grabs the chair and pushes you forward or pulls you backward. And rest. You can rest keeping your hands in this position if you want to, but just not holding them up or undo them. And then put them straight out again. And go in up and down with them. And as they go up, look at them. And as they go down, look at them. Doesn't have to be a big motion, just whatever feels okay in your body. And feel what's happening in your ribs. You've got ribs in the front of yourself. When do they compress? And when do they expand? And you've got ribs in the back of yourself. If you were to say, imagine that this is an elephant trunk and it's hanging down toward the ground, feel how the ribs in the back have to widen and spread. And then as you go up, the ribs in the back compress a little bit. Okay. Rest for a moment. Go ahead and uncross your hands. So we're going to cross them again. Put your right hand on top of your left. Cross at the wrist. Turn them over. Okay. Now we're going to imagine that there's a Ferris wheel in front of ourselves. You're going to go around the Ferris wheel. And let There's a constraint for this. Keep your elbows straight. So when you keep your elbows straight, if you want to go in a big and like make your Ferris wheel a circle so it's not terrifying for the rider, you have to do it from your sit bones. But there's a little bit of when do you round your back and when do you arch your back. It's asking for movement right in the middle of the back. Good. Rest. And now come on up to standing and see what it's like to come up to standing. And sit down again. Put your hands back in this, right hand over left, cross at the wrist, turn them over. And with your hands, scoop down a little so you go just a little lower than your knee on your way to coming up to standing. So you start by scooping your hands down and then you come up. And see if that makes it a little easier to get your weight forward for coming up to Good. And it's an interesting search for the path, because I find if I take my hands straight forward, it doesn't really help me sit up. But if I scoop down, so it kind of goes down and up, and you play with possibilities. And as you get partway up, lifting your hands just makes your knees unfold. Okay, and sit down again. We're going to play a little bit with the other side. So put your left hand on top of your right hand. Cross at the wrist. Turn them over. And begin to go forward and backward. So now your left wrist will be on top. And feel how your feet help you, how your sit bones help. You might even be using your belly. When you go forward, you can push your belly out. When you go back, pull your belly in. Okay. And then go up and down. And feel what's happening in your rib cage. Let your eyes go with your hands. And then have your eyes go opposite your hands. So your hands go down as you look at the ceiling, and your hands go up as you look at the floor. And rest. Left hand on top of right, cross at the wrist, flip the hands. And make a Ferris wheel forward and backward. Just feeling how your sit bones, your whole body, it kind of makes me feel like rowing, almost being on a rowing machine, or go the other direction around the Ferris wheel. And then keep your hands in this position, but let them hang down. And now try that same thing of scooping forward as a way to pop up to standing. So that the arms by the end come up to about shoulder high. They don't need to go higher than that. But there's something about the momentum, as if as they go up, that it helps your body. come up. Oh, I haven't thought about the coming down. What path should the arms come so that you can come down without plopping? I bring the arms down and scoop a little. All right. Who's finding it a little easier with this? Okay. Elizabeth is? Rich? Couple heads nodding? Yeah. Okay. So now let's, whichever hand, well, let's all put our right hand on top. Cross over. Fold them down. And now we're going to imagine that there's a dinner plate in front of us. And we're tracing the edge of the dinner plate. So it's got more sideways motion than the Ferris wheel did. Or you could imagine that you have a big giant spoon, and for some reason you chose to hold it this way, and you're stirring a big pot, a big cauldron of soup. You're at the soup kitchen. And notice which direction you chose to go, clockwise or counterclockwise. Okay, put your arms down and stand up again, and see if you stand up at a little bit of an angle to the side, if it made you want to go a little bit to one side more than the other. Okay, and then sit down. Let's cross left over right this time. Separate, flip, and trace the dinner plate. You're probably going the opposite direction you went before. Or you've got that big cauldron of soup and you're stirring the soup. And sense what's happening in your ribs as you stir the soup. You can imagine it's like chili, it's thick, and you have to work with your ribs to do it. But your ribs on one side lengthen and on the other side squish, and it gets that side-to-side movement in the rib cage a little bit to stir the soup. Okay, and then stand up and see if you go a little bit in the other direction now. And sit down. So there's a third plane of movement that we haven't done yet. Let's put right over left, cross the wrists and flip. And now imagine that your computer monitor is like a big circular clock and you're tracing around the clock face. Yeah. And let that be a big motion in your body. You feel how you pass yourself from sit bone to sit bone? Your weight shifts. Just go in one direction for now. And how your ribs have that same side bending compression motion. Okay? And then come and stand up. See which side you go to more than the other. And sit down. Let's cross, put the left hand on top, cross, and hold. And then let's do the clock in the other direction. So probably going counterclockwise now. Always want time to go backwards, get a little bit longer day. Feeling how your weight transfers. And then pop up to standing. Okay. And come up to standing again and stay there. And let's try these same circles in standing. So cross right over left, flip the hands, And let's first do the Ferris wheel with your elbows straight. It's an interesting movement to try to coordinate standing, isn't it? Of when does your bottom have to go backwards so you don't fall over forwards? When does your bottom have to go forwards? Really think about what you're, yeah. Sharon, I see you making a huge Ferris wheel. That's what, it's great. You're counterbalancing beautifully. Because this counterbalance, this weight out of the fingers, at the hands, has to be balanced somehow by what you do with your bottom. Good. Switch your hands. And do the same thing in standing. Okay. Sit down if you need a rest. If standing is being uncomfortable, you could do this whole thing in sitting. Looks like everybody wants a rest. Okay. This is actually useful for when you're doing the dishes as well. When you're reaching out for something, that idea that taking something backwards helps you counterbalance is helpful, or picking things up. Come on back up to standing. Do your hands one way, doesn't matter which. And pretend you've got the big spoon and you're stirring the big pot of soup. If you're feeling particularly brutish, you could imagine that it's bread dough in there, or cake dough, or something that's a little stickier and thicker. And you really have to use your whole body. Your elbows are straight. Feel how your weight shifts side to side. Go the other direction. And then a few times we've done the Ferris wheel and the cauldron. So the other direction is the clock. Imagine there's a clock in front of you, or you're tracing around the outside of the computer screen. And feel how your weight shifts. And then, so feel what's happening in your feet as you do this. And then go the other way and see if you can use your feet to be the energy source, that by somehow transferring, sort of pushing from foot to foot, it swings your arms. Okay, and then switch your hands and try these circles with the three planes, either out and toward you like a Ferris wheel, or the clock, or the stirring the soup. And then come have a seat. And come back to standing and then sit down again just to see how this is going. So one of the things I'm always looking for are those quick things that when you're feeling a little bit locked up or stiff, that you can do to make life easier. And this is something that to take the hands, make this funny shape, and do some circles in different directions helps get this part of the top part of your torso loosened up. Just check in with yourself now. What's the sense of the stretchiness of the fabric in front of you and in back of you? Is it a little bit more even that way than it was when you started? And if you close your eyes and put the string between your shoulder and your ears, one on each side, do the strings feel different somehow, maybe longer, more symmetric. So there are a few other pieces of this coming up to sit and coming down that we've played with in other classes, and I just want to bring them in for a moment here. And one is our heels and our ankles, because to get up, the angle in our ankles has to change, and when we're stiff there, it can be really hard to get forward enough. So with your right foot, imagine that your heel is behind you. Well, your heel is behind your right foot. And go up and down with your heel, like you were gently tapping your heel up and down with the right foot. And then while it's at the up point, take it a little left and a little right. We're also at the same time going to wake up the fibula. So if you put your thumb on the top of your knee and reach your index finger down, it touches this bone, the fibula. And when you start with your heel up and you take it left and right, you'll feel quite a bit of movement in that bone. Because the bottom end of that bone is the bottom knob on your ankle. And so when the heel goes in, the bone goes one way, and when the heel goes out, it's a good 3 or 4 inches below the surface of your knee, the top surface. Give me a thumbs up if you're finding it, and a thumbs down if you're not. Okay? So if you put your hand in, we're struggling with this, the thumb on the top, and then the index finger goes down the outside of the knee. Then when you take your heel in and out, you'll feel a lot of movement under your finger. Or you can use these 2 fingers that are hanging down and kind of get the head of the bone between them and find it. Okay. So now you can go up and down with your foot, and you can go left and right. Imagine that there's a clock right behind your heel. So if my hand is the clock, and you're taking your heel in a circle around the clock. You can leave your fingers on that bone on your fibula. It's kind of fun to feel it move. It makes you aware of a joint you didn't realize was there. That making sense, to take the heel in a little circle? Okay, and go the other way with that circle. And stop for a moment. Now with your foot flat on the floor, lift the inside edge a little bit. Your knee might need to move out a little to help you lift the inside edge of your foot. And then lift the outside edge of the foot a few times. And come up on your toe, and on your toes, on the ball of your foot a little bit, lift your heel and rotate like you were trying with the front of your foot, trying to squish out a cigarette. Or for me, when I have a weed in my gravel path, I go like that with my foot to try to rip the weed out because I'm too lazy to bend over to pick it out. Okay. Okay. And now try the circle with your heel again and see if it got a little easier. Okay. So look up at the screen for a moment, see if I can hold this still enough to get a good view. this big bone coming down is your tibia, the main bone that holds the weight. And right under it here is a bone called your talus. And that is the bone that's like a matchbox car. And when your foot bends this way, there's a saddle joint under there. It's kind of rounded, and the bone tucks under. I think of it as this is the matchbox car that's going and parking in the garage under the tibia. And when you go this way, it comes forward. But that motion of the tibia over that saddle joint is necessary for coming up to standing. And so that's what we're trying to work now. And we've been working with the right foot. Slide your right heel backward under you as far as you can, leaving the foot flat. And feel how far back it goes. And now compare it to your left foot that we haven't been working with. See how the right foot, it just has a little bit more ability to fold in it. Okay. And of course, some of you have one ankle that's more flexible anyway than the other, so it depends on which one we started with. But let's do the left one. So first take your heel up and down, just like you're tapping your toe, except you're tapping your heel. You could visualize that little talus bone going, there's the bottom of the tibia, the talus bone kind of folds under there. And then go, once with the heel lifted, go left and right. And notice that the front of your foot does something when your heel goes left and right. The front of the foot does that squishing a cigarette motion. And then begin to make a circle with that heel. Does your weight change as you do the circle? Do you feel any shift of your ribs left and right? Is your circle round? Is there some way that by shifting your weight or moving your ribs, you could get to that flat spot in the circle? Go the other way. Rest for a moment. Lift the inside edge of your foot. Lift the outside edge. You could even look down there to see, something on the bottom of your shoe, on the bottom of your sock. You won't be able to see that far, but just by looking, it helps. Feel how that helps your ribs side bend. And then take your left hand, your thumb on your knee, and then the index and middle finger can reach the top of the fibula. Lift your foot up, your heel up, and go left and right. And see if this fibula is as easy to find as the other one. Often one of them sort of comes right up to our hand and the other hides a little bit more. And then begin to do the circle with the heel, feeling the fibula move. Okay, rest. And slide your heel back under you a little bit and see if it can slide just a little bit more. Then let's cross right over left. Make the hand connection. And then do that down. You start by diving between your knees and then coming forward on the path to bring you up to standing. And see if it's just a little easier to come forward, a little more comfortable in the ankles. And okay, have a seat. The third piece that's the really critical piece for standing up is the direction that the sit bones are going. So reach your right hand under, find your right sit bone. Imagine you're putting your hand in your back pocket, but there's no pocket, and you just go a little further and you can get a hold of that right sit bone. Then take your left hand and go from the front and till your fingertips touch under your sit bone. And if you pull that backwards a little, you can lift your bottom off the chair and then put it back. So you're trying to send your sit bone back behind your chair. But if you take that sit bone and bring it a little forward, try and get out of your chair. It's like all of a sudden I'm like an elephant, I can't move. But as soon as that sit bone goes back, and by having your hands together under your sit bone, it's kind of an awkward position, I know, but it makes your head have to go down. So the more your head goes down, as if you wanted to type with your nose on your keyboard, that's what makes the bottom easy to lift and put down. Let's try it a little bit with the other side. So take your left hand under, find your left sit bone. And the left sit bone is just the bottom of your pelvis. Rich, are you asking a question? Or are you?
I got a question.
Okay, what's the question? Everybody take your for a moment.
Am I muted?
No, we can hear you.
Can you do this type of deal? I can do that to get up, as long as the weight of your arms.
Oh, that's it.
Down.
You start by this rocking back, and then bring the arms sharply down forward, and it lifts your bottom up. Yeah, as long as your head goes with your arms, that'll work.
Okay.
Yeah, everybody
Or
try.
you can hold some weight too.
Yes,
Like
holding a weight, it's often easier to get up if you hold something way out at arm's length.
Yeah.
I can do a roller skating move called shoot the duck if I hold something out there, because it helps me counterbalance. It makes me bring my bottom back. Same thing. Yeah. Because getting up is all about counterbalancing. It's all about having the same amount of weight behind your knees as in front. Anyway, let's find our left sit bone. And then reach the right hand from the front until your fingers touch. And if you can't do this, imagine doing it. And then send that sit bone backward to lift your bottom up. But if you try bringing the sit bone forward, you can just feel how much more work it is. So now as you come up the next time, bring your head down until you feel your bottom lighten, and then try to send your bottom a little backwards and then unfold. And as you go down, reach forward with your hands, way, way, way forward. Bring your bottom way, way, way back, and you'll find yourself able to come down gently onto the chair without a plop. So the more your head and your arms go forward, that's what helps your bottom learn how to counterbalance to go down. Getting easier? Yeah. So now come on up to standing and listen before you do anything. You're going to come down just enough so your bottom touches the chair and then come back up, but don't actually sit on it. So you're going to have to use your hands to help you counterbalance as you go down to touch it and come back up. What I love about counterbalance is that it's not about muscular strength. And it's like I see people doing it over and over again, like, oh, wow, this isn't so bad. Yeah. So, William, try taking your arms further forward as you go down, like reaching way far forward. Yeah, even more. Straighten your elbows and letting your head come down a little bit. Beautiful. Feel how that makes the squat a little bit easier. Okay. And then have a seat. Okay. This has been a gross motor activity today, but I think there's some techniques you can play with at home for certainly something we have plenty of times a day to practice. I know what we should do. Let's make it really hard to get up. So what could you do that would make it really hard? Give me some ideas.
Sit all the way back in your chair.
Yes, start way back in your chair. So everybody do this as we come up with these. All right, and what else?
Close your eyes.
Close your eyes, okay, so that you get a little disoriented.
Don't move your butt forward.
Don't move your butt forward. Or move your butt forward.
Yeah, move it forward.
Okay, just even as you're sitting there, slide your bottom a little forward in your chair. Tuck your pelvis. Okay. What could you do with your feet to get in the way?
Get them too far forward.
Yep, put your feet forward. And now just think, like, what would it be like to get out of this chair? All right, so pull the feet back, come forward in the chair.
Right.
What could you do with your head now to get in the way of getting up?
Throw it back.
Yeah, draw your head up and back. It's like you're thinking, I want to go up, so I take my head up and back and now try and get up, but it's like, nope, I'm planted. Yeah. So
my dad would cross his feet when sitting down to stand up. And he had a hell of a time getting up. And he didn't start doing this till he was about 89.
It's interesting because you can, if you cross your feet, one way to get up is to cross your feet and then hold on to the back of the chair. And then you spiral out and you're holding on to the chair. So it can be an effective technique. If anybody wants to try it, it's sometimes like at a restaurant or someplace where everything's really tight. Or you could put a hand on the seat itself and just spiral up.
And you fell over.
So it may be something he discovered that worked for him, but then he may have forgotten the second half.
Yeah.
Or he was.
It didn't work for him at all.
Cindy, you have another.
Yeah, I've been getting out of bed that way. Rather than sit on the bed and put my feet down and like lift myself up, I like sit up and then as I get up, I turn so that I'm facing the mattress and then I push myself up with my hands, and it's gotten my hips a little bit out of harm's way.
And that's a lovely, safe way for getting out of bed. So you're sitting on the edge of the bed, you put your hands on the bed, and if you start by crossing your legs, it makes it easier to then spiral up, and then you're in a very safe place. And if you have positional, I forgot the word for it, but when you get dizzy when you go from sitting to standing, then you're facing your bed. If you do get dizzy, you're in a safe place. All right. It's probably a good place to leave things in terms of getting up from standing. On Thursday, we're going to do more shoulder focus. Are there particular motions that you're finding challenging with your shoulders? That will help me come up with some ideas for the class. Elizabeth.
Yeah, today I had trouble putting my arms out straight, keeping my elbows straight to move my shoulders.
When we were doing this lesson with the...
Yeah, and my hands, my wrists are so tight. that my fingers don't go, it pulls all the way up.
Okay, so
If you want to check,
oops. I'm going to mute everybody for just a sec. Elizabeth, unmute yourself again, so we don't get echo in there. So straightening the elbows, okay? So does that make it hard when you're getting dressed to get your arm into something?
Yes.
Yeah.
It bothers to eat. Come up to you, to bend the elbow.
So even like bending and straightening the elbow,
Yes.
okay? Anyone else? Danielle, unmute yourself. Should be a little picture of a microphone somewhere down in the lower left. There you go.
I tend to hunch my shoulders a lot, or one shoulder higher than the other.
Okay. And does that get in your way of doing anything?
No, it just makes for tight muscles there after a while.
Okay. Ron.
I have trouble straightening my arm out really straight. I have to force my elbow straight,
Okay.
and then I can't reach to touch my shoulder like this. I barely.
So if you get an itchy spot, trying to like go like that to reach it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any others of just irritating things that if my shoulder would only do that, life would be more convenient. Okay. That gives me plenty to work with. So we'll play with shoulders next week. And in the meantime, the playing with trying to wash with your arms and elbows of the touching each other, just those, it's not random motions, but it's the idea that there's one muscle that closes the joint and one muscle that opens the joint. And by doing these kind of crazy motions, you're alternating one muscle and the other, and that helps them reset into length. So something to play with in the in-between time. Not trying to push to go further, to wash higher, because that triggers us into the holding tight. But the doing it as gently and softly and playfully as you can, that's where your brain will reset your muscles. All right. See you all on Thursday morning and have a good Tuesday afternoon. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.